My sister left her laptop unlocked. I swiped once and froze. Their business chat read, $32,000 for this fake startup? We'll smile, take the cash, sail first class through the Aegean. My mother wrote, he's too naive to notice. My father added, skip the shares. I want that $5,000 wine tasting in Santorini. I smiled, rewrote every contract. 3 days later, they got the call from my lawyer. I always stayed in the guest room when I visited my parents' house. It hadn't changed since high school. Posters peeling off the walls, the old bookshelf I built with my dad still leaning to the left. That weekend, I was in town for my mom's birthday. We had the usual family dinner. Overcooked meatloaf, a few tense jokes, and the kind of laughter that doesn't touch your eyes. On Sunday morning, I needed to check an email for work. My phone was dead, and I didn't have my laptop. I asked my sister, Lena, if I could borrow hers. She was in the shower and just called out, yeah, it's on the table. Not locked. That was all the permission I needed. I grabbed her laptop and sat down on the couch. As it booted up, I rubbed the back of my neck, already thinking about Monday's meetings. The home screen was already open, some kind of group chat in a messaging app. She must have left it open. I was about to close it when I saw my name. Not tagged, not bolded, just sitting there, mid-message. Marcus is too soft to notice anything. Just keep the invoices going. I froze. The chat name was Vision Inc. Planning. The participants, Lena, Mom, Aunt Rena. My name wasn't in the chat. Of course not. But my bank account might as well have been. I scrolled up. They were talking about the consulting startup Lena had pitched me on months ago. The one I'd been helping launch. Except this chat didn't read like startup talk. Use the development invoice trick again. He never checks the breakdowns. I'll add another payment for the IP lawyer. He'll eat that up. Boutique shopping this weekend. Use the Shell account. God, this cruise is going to be incredible. Let's do the wine tasting in Bordeaux. And then this gem from my mother. He wanted to feel like part of something. Let him. They joked about how easily I bought it. Legacy project, Lena had called it. Our big brother-sister bond adventure. And all I saw now was my family siphoning money like it was Monopoly cash. The worst part? They were laughing. They joked about my earnest spreadsheets, my Google Drive folder of dreams. My parents, my mother, used to cry when I got awards in school. Now she was calling me a piggy bank with feelings. My hands were cold, but I didn't say a word. I didn't even flinch. I closed the laptop quietly, set it back on the table like nothing happened, and stood up. Lena came out of the hallway with wet hair and a towel over her shoulder. All good, she asked. I smiled. Yeah, thanks. She nodded, already reaching for her coffee. I walked past her, my heartbeat loud in my ears. In the kitchen, I poured myself a cup of stale black coffee and sat at the table like nothing had changed. Because that's what they expected. Me, the dependable one, the idiot. But I had seen enough. They had no idea what was coming. A few months before that weekend, Lena called me late at night. It was one of those calls where she started with, "Don't freak out," which always meant I should. But this time, it wasn't a crisis. It was an opportunity. I want to build something, she said, her voice soft, like she was rehearsing it. A real business. Something that matters. And I want to do it with you. She talked about this consulting firm idea, boutique strategy work for nonprofits and public sector clients. You've got the business brain, she said. I've got the policy network. We could really make it happen. I'll be honest, I was flattered. We'd never been especially close. Growing up, she was always more bonded with our parents. I was the one with the spreadsheets, the planner, the boring one. So hearing her say she wanted to partner with me, that meant something. I said I'd think about it. The next day, Mom called. That never happened. She said Lena had told her the news, and she was so proud of us. That she always knew we'd create something meaningful together. She kept using words like legacy and family foundation. I started to believe it. Like maybe this wasn't just a project. Maybe this was how I'd finally connect with them. We didn't sign anything. That should have been the first red flag. But Lena said that formal contracts would muddy the dynamic. We were family. We trusted each other. She'd take care of the paperwork, company registration, operating agreement, EIN filings. She just needed my card for the legal fees. After that, it was a steady stream of payments. There was the brand strategist, the logo design firm, the outsourced HR consultant she claimed was non-negotiable. I remember pushing back once, asking if we really needed a diversity coach before we even had staff. That's when Mom stepped in again. Let her shine, Marcus, she said gently. She's doing something bold. Don't kill it with your caution. Dad barely said a word through all this, except to tell me over dinner one night. Don't overthink everything. This is good for her. Just go with it. So I did. Every invoice Lena sent over looked legit, or at least plausible. She'd forward me emails from vendors with generic business names like Strategic IQ Concepts or Civic Fluent LLC. They had nice formatting, Dotted line signatures, a faint scent of authenticity. I should have looked closer. But I wanted this to work. I wanted to believe she meant it when she said we were building something real. Looking back, every urgent payment was just a new lie. Each vendor was fake, every cost to cover. That LLC we supposedly co-owned? She never filed it. The EIN? It belonged to a dissolved business in Oregon. Even the email domains were spoofed. I bankrolled her lie, one wire transfer at a time. And the worst part? They didn't just take my money. They made me thank them for the chance to give it. That Sunday night, after I got home from the visit, I didn't sleep. I didn't get angry. Not in the usual way. It was something colder, something slower, like frost creeping across a window. I opened my laptop, poured a scotch, and started digging. The first thing I did was log into my bank accounts. I opened the folders where I had saved all the receipts, the emailed invoices, the payment confirmations. I had organized everything meticulously like a good little co-founder. It was all there. Every transfer. Every line item. Then I went back to the chat I had seen on Lena's laptop. I'd screenshotted the entire thing while she was still in the shower, frame by frame, like a war photographer. It was all saved to a hidden folder on my phone. Vision_ink_fraud_screens. Not the most subtle name, but it got the point across. The chat was even worse on second read. Aunt Rena bragging about the boutiques in Paris she wanted to hit on Marcus' dime. My mom joking about teaching him how to be generous. Lena telling them to stay vague on updates because he's always polite and doesn't push. They weren't afraid. They were confident. Like I was a mark they'd already written off. Around 2 a.m., I started searching the vendors. I Googled every single one. Cross-referenced names, EINs, business listings. Nothing came up, at least nothing real. A couple led to suspended shell corporations. One address traced to a shuttered deli in Tulsa. Another supposedly PR firm was tied to Lena's Venmo history. The deeper I went, the angrier I got, but I stayed focused. I created a spreadsheet. Column A, invoice name. Column B, vendor. Column C, amount paid. Column D, date. Column E, fake. Column F, evidence. I color-coded it. Green for maybe real, red for obviously fake, yellow for questionable. Out of 21 line items, 17 were bright red. The rest were yellow. By 5 a.m., I had everything in a folder titled For Counsel, June Draft. Then I called my lawyer. His name's Dan Maddox. We've worked together before. He helped me navigate a messy contract dispute a few years back. Straight shooter. No drama. Just facts. He picked up after 2 rings. Marcus, he asked, groggy. You good? I need to know how to unwind an investment that was never real, I said. He paused. How much are we talking? 32 grand. He whistled low. Who's the other party? My sister. Another pause. You want to sue? Eventually. But first I need to cut her off clean. Quietly. I don't want them to know I know. Not yet. He was quiet for a beat. Okay, he said. Send me everything. All financials. Any messages. Screenshots. Timeline. I'll get started. I sent him the entire package that morning. By noon, he had already filed paperwork to revoke Lena's access to the joint accounts. The fake LLC? Dan drafted a dissolution letter and restructured the business under my name only. A real business this time. The kind with filings. Documents. Proof. Meanwhile, Lena kept texting. Need $2,500 for a back-end dev, super talented. Investor dinner Thursday, can you spot the tab? Client gifts. Budget okay for $800? I told her I'd check funds later. I was in a client meeting. I trusted her judgment. Every text she sent became part of the file. Every lie was a brick in her own wall. And all the while, I was building mine, stronger, quieter, colder. Because next time we'd speak face to face. She wouldn't see her brother. She'd see her reckoning. 3 weeks later, I booked a venue. It was a sleek little art space downtown, exposed brick, polished concrete floors, minimalist lighting. The kind of place where startups host vision launch nights and post about it in black and white on LinkedIn. I chose it on purpose. Lena would love it. She was all about optics. I told the family we were throwing a soft launch for Vision Incorporated. Just a close group of friends and family. A way to say thank you. To celebrate the journey. I even sent out digital invites with a made-up agenda, cocktails, slide deck, investor Q&A. Lena responded within 6 minutes. OMG, I'm so proud of us. Should I do a short speech? I told her yes. I wanted her standing up front. I rented the bar, hired a caterer, put together a mock landing page for the company. I left just enough vague language on the walls, mission statements, values, partnership blurbs to look real. No one would question it, especially not people who never bothered to ask questions in the first place. The night of the launch, I arrived early, set up the screen, arranged the chairs, tested the mic. I even wore a Navy suit. Something clean and sharp. I looked like someone who built things. The guests trickled in. Lena came in loud and glowing, air-kissing everyone. My mom wore a champagne blazer. My dad lingered near the bar like always. Aunt Rena showed up in designer sunglasses. Indoors. Everyone looked pleased, like their con was becoming a company. At 7:10 p.m., I took the mic. "Thank you all for being here," I said, smiling. "It means a lot to share this milestone with family." Lena was already filming. Mom was clapping. Aunt Rena whispered to someone, "He's so polished now." I clicked to the first slide. It was a screenshot. A chat message. My name at the top. Below it, Lena's message. "Just keep the invoices going. Marcus is too soft to notice anything." The room shifted. I moved to slide 2. A spreadsheet. Clean, color-coded. Each line labeled. Fake vendor. Paid. Total, $32,000. Slide 3. A receipt for a 3-person cruise booking. My name missing from the itinerary. No one made a sound. Then I spoke again, still calm. "For those of you wondering, yes, I paid for all of this. Every invoice. Every vendor. Every glass of wine poured on that cruise. And no, I wasn't invited." Lena stood frozen, her phone still raised in mid-record. Slide 4. A bank transfer. From my account to one called Vision Legacy Group LLC. Slide 5. That LLC's listed owner. Lena Marlowe. Sole proprietor. Filed 5 months ago. Right after I sent her the first transfer. Then I turned back to the crowd. "I was told we were building something," I said. "We were. But I was the only one laying bricks. The rest of them were cashing in." I let that sit. Let them look around at each other. My mom's mouth was slightly open, blinking like the lights were too bright. Aunt Rena looked down at her drink like it might disappear. Lena finally spoke. "This isn't Marcus. What are you doing?" I smiled. "What you never thought I would." The next slide clicked on. Slide 6. A line of text, white on black. "You don't scam the builder and expect to keep the house." I stepped back from the mic. Just a few feet. Just enough. And I waited. Because the next part wasn't mine to say. The silence held for a full 10 seconds. Then a man stepped forward from the back of the room. Dark suit, gray tie, calm face, Dan Maddox, my attorney. No one noticed him earlier. He blended in like another guest. He looked like someone's old business partner or uncle from the city. But now he held a thick folder in one hand and a stack of envelopes in the other. He walked up beside me and adjusted the mic. "Good evening," he said plainly. "My name is Daniel Maddox. I'm legal counsel for Marcus Marlowe." You could hear a wine glass hit the floor in the back. No one moved. "As of this evening," Dan continued, "we are filing a civil claim for fraudulent misrepresentation and financial abuse against Lena Marlowe, Regina Marlowe, and Rena Taylor, operating under the false pretense of a joint business venture." He stepped forward and handed Lena the first envelope. "You are named as the primary respondent," he said to her, calm as ever. She stared at it like it was covered in blood. "You can't do this," she whispered. Dan didn't flinch. "I can. I just did." He handed my mother her envelope next. "You're listed as a co-conspirator in the misappropriation of funds used under fictitious invoices." My mom reached out like she was trying to stop a falling plate. "This is ridiculous. We're family. You can't sue your own." Dan interrupted her smoothly. "Actually, under Florida Statute 817, coordinated financial fraud doesn't exempt relatives." He turned to Aunt Rena and handed her the final envelope. "Ma'am, you will find details of the investigation into the shell account registered in your name. We've traced multiple personal purchases to the funds Marcus transferred under fraudulent claims." Aunt Rena looked like she'd been slapped. Lena stepped forward, voice rising. "This was supposed to be a surprise. The cruise was a gift. You ruined it." I turned to her, my voice steady. "You don't give someone their own money, Lena." She clenched her jaw. "You're not serious. This isn't real." Dan pulled out a notarized court filing from his folder, held it up. "It's very real." Someone near the back whispered, "Holy shit." Another guest, a friend of my cousin's, pulled out their phone and started filming. The quiet rustle of camera shutters filled the room. My dad hadn't said a word until now. He stepped toward me, voice low. "You're humiliating the family." I looked him dead in the eye. "No. You did that when you let it happen." He stared at me for a moment, then looked away. Dan turned to the room. "If anyone present received money or gifts tied to Vision Incorporated, you may be contacted during discovery." Now the crowd looked nervous. People were backing away, pretending to check their phones. Some quietly left. Lena stood in the center of it all, pale, breathing hard, envelope in hand. "You just blew up your own family," she hissed. I took one step forward, calm as ever. "No, you burned the bridge. I just made sure everyone saw the fire." Then I walked off the stage and let the ashes settle behind me. I didn't answer a single call after that night. Not the first ones. Not the 100th. Text came in like falling debris. My sister's messages shifted from rage to begging within a day. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Then, hours later. Please, Marcus. We can fix this. My parents were subtler at first. Mom, you're hurting your own mother. Is that what you want? Dad, you made your point. Now undo this before it gets worse. But I didn't say a word. Not to them. Not to anyone who stood beside them. Dan advised me to keep quiet. Let the legal gears grind. And so I did. A week later, Lena lost her job. Dan had sent a disclosure packet to her employer, required under financial misrepresentation statutes tied to personal gain through fraud. It wasn't vindictive. It was procedural. But it broke her. I saw the aftermath through others, mutuals, LinkedIn updates, a post from a coworker about internal ethical concerns and leadership. She disappeared from her social media after that. Deleted her accounts. Ghosted the digital world she'd always loved performing in. My parents fared no better. Turns out their consulting business, the one they used for bogus tax write-offs and expense coverage, couldn't survive an IRS audit. Dan flagged it. The feds ran with it. Within 2 months, they were under investigation. Aunt Rena tried to preempt it by selling her condo in Miami. Too late. The court froze the account tied to the Shell LLC. They spun. And I stayed still. The silence I gave them wasn't empty. It was deafening. Their social circles, the country club, the bridge group, Mom's retired teachers' brunches, they all heard whispers. People asked questions. Someone leaked the court documents. It started on Reddit, of all places. A friend of a friend. This guy blew up his whole family over a fake startup. Wild Red. Screenshots followed. The group chat. The cruise booking. Lena's texts asking for investor dinners. Soon the story spread. Then came the side-taking. Some extended relatives tried reaching out to hear my side. I didn't respond. Others just quietly unfollowed my parents online. That part didn't give me satisfaction. But it gave me distance. The worst hit came a month after the launch event. A cousin sent me a photo from a local news site. Retired school administrator and husband face tax fraud allegations. It was them. Front page. Faces blurred, but not enough. The article didn't name me, but everyone in our world knew. Mom had always been proud of how put together our family looked. Always made a point to say we were respectable people. Now they were Google searchable. Now every keyword was poison. They kept trying. Reaching out in smaller ways. A forwarded chain email from Aunt Rena about forgiveness. A blank Facebook friend request from Dad. A one-line text from Lena. You win. Happy. I didn't reply. I just read it once, deleted it, and moved on. Because it wasn't about winning. It was about ending the noise. And finally, it was quiet. The hearing was short. They say justice is slow, but when you hand the court a paper trail a mile long, sometimes it moves faster than expected. Dan was brilliant. Precise. Unshakable. He walked the judge through every detail, the fake invoices, the spoofed vendors, the cruise documents, the LLC fraud. Lena tried to deny it at first. Claimed she was misled by third-party contractors. That she didn't understand the filings. But the group chat screenshots shredded that story before it even got started. My parents didn't say much in court. Just sat there stiffly, like mannequins dressed for regret. Dad looked smaller than I remembered. Mom didn't meet my eyes once. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a firm voice and no patience for lies, didn't waste words. Her verdict was clear. Full reimbursement of the $32,000 I had provided. An additional $20,000 in emotional damages. Legal fees covered in full. A lien placed on Lena's apartment until the judgment was satisfied. And an order from my parents to liquidate assets to repay their share. She called it a deeply personal breach of fiduciary trust under the guise of family. Dan leaned toward me, whispered, "Most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't raise his voice." I nodded. I didn't feel joy. No fist pump. No victory smile. Just something still. Something finished. As we left the courtroom, Lena called out my name. Her voice cracked. "Marcus, please, this can't be the end." I turned, slow and quiet. Looked her in the eyes. "It ended the moment you turned me into a transaction." Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't wait. I walked out of the courthouse and into the sunlight. Dan clapped me on the shoulder. "You did what most people can't," he said. "You set the boundary, and you held it." I nodded again. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt peace. Not the kind that comes from fixing something. The kind that comes from knowing you won't let it break you again. That night, I went home and deleted the folders. The screenshots, the spreadsheets, all of it. The case was over. The chapter was closed. I made one final update to my bank account settings. Then I brewed a cup of coffee, sat on my balcony, and watched the city light up, not as a man who'd won a war, but as someone who had finally stopped giving his heart to people who never earned it. The wedding was small. Just 15 people. No photographers. No live stream. No hashtags. Just me, Tara, and the lake behind us. She wore a simple white dress and a thin silver bracelet. I wore a navy suit, the same one from the launch party. The irony wasn't lost on me, but it didn't matter. This time, the room was filled with people I trusted. Tara had been with me through the whole mess. She never asked questions she already knew would hurt. She didn't push for details. She just stood by me. When I told her I wanted a quiet wedding, no guest list debates, no politics, no performance, she smiled and said, "Finally." We exchanged vows under a weeping willow. Her parents cried. Mine weren't invited. Neither was Lena. In fact, I blocked every number in my family tree 6 months earlier. Deleted their emails. Filtered their names out of my inbox. I changed my will, too. Dan helped. We added a line that said, "No notification upon my death shall be sent to the following individuals." And then listed each of them. Full legal names. Dates of birth. Even Aunt Rena. It wasn't revenge. It was a firewall. That's what I called it in therapy, building my firewall. A barrier between who I used to be and who I had become. After the ceremony, we had dinner on the deck of a quiet lodge. No speeches. Just laughter. Real laughter. The kind that came from ease, not expectation. Tara leaned over during dessert and whispered, "You're smiling more now." I looked around at our friends, a couple I'd known since college, her sister, a neighbor from our building, even Dan, seated beside a woman who made him laugh more than I'd ever seen. "I feel lighter," I said. The next afternoon, on the way back into town, we passed through my old neighborhood. I hadn't been there in months. Everything looked the same: strip malls, tired lawns, gas stations with cracked pavement. As we drove, we passed a small cafe. It used to be our family's spot. The kind of place we went after Sunday church or to celebrate school milestones. Booths by the window, jukebox in the corner. I slowed the car as we passed. There was a new sign out front. Reservations only, no walk-ins. Tara glanced over. "Want to stop?" I looked through the window. The booths were empty. The jukebox was gone. I shook my head. "No," I said, turning the wheel. "Let's keep going." And we did. No longing. No anger. Just motion. For the first time in my life, there was no noise. No guilt. No strings. Just me, the woman I loved, and the road ahead. Quiet. Exactly how I wanted it.